As enthusiasts, we hate to admit it, but sports crossovers are saving our hobby here. Because as we get older, we start having families, things change, and we need more practicality and interior space, and sports sedans and sport coupes are not going to cut it. But sports crossovers, though, we can most certainly deal with if we get a good powertrain, a good suspension, and maybe even a comfortable interior. This year we have taken a look at a lot of sports crossovers, but one that really has stood out to me is the SQ5. Now, interestingly enough, though, the Q5 is nowhere close to being in the conversation for Car of the Year, but the SQ5 is. And if you guys remember, the last time we checked out the SQ5, I said it was more like a Porsche Macan than anything else. And in today's video, we're going to go over the pros and cons as to why the SQ5 is on this list in the first place, but also why right now in 2025 heading into 2026 the Audi SQ5 might actually be the best sports compact crossover you can buy right now at around $70,000. Now, before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout and thank you to Audi Peabody in Peabody, Massachusetts for letting me come down here and check out the Audi SQ5 once again. Their link will be in the description below so you can check out their extensive Audi inventory. Beginning with the pros here for the B10 SQ5, it all starts off with this powertrain and the overall performance. So for 2025, you're going to receive a 3-liter turbocharged V6, producing 362 horsepower and 406 pound-feet of torque. It is paired with a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission. On paper alone, this is a huge improvement over the B9.5. Straight line speed is going to be there to give you an exhilarating driving experience. Also, thanks to this chassis and platform, laterally speaking, it can handle really well, and you're going to have that confidence when you are on a winding back road. Here are my thoughts from our test drive earlier in the summer when we checked out the SQ5 and did a full extensive review on it. Setting off on our first test drive with the all-new 2025 Audi SQ5 for the B10 generation, and there's a lot to digest here for this model. Yes, we have a new platform, the PPC chassis, which takes a lot of elements from the EV vehicles in the lineup. But you also have the S Sport package essentially coming standard here across all 3 trims. And that is going to make a world of a difference. Because for 2025, you can cross-shop a B9.5 and B10 because both are being sold simultaneously together side by side, which does create a bit of confusion here. But if you're someone looking for an enthusiast-focused crossover that is an alternative to a BMW X3 M50, the B10 is better set up to do all of that. Not only do you get better performance out of this 3-liter turbocharged V6, this 7-speed dual clutch gives this vehicle a lot more soul. And on top of all of this, with the air suspension coming standard, there's no body roll associated with this vehicle anymore, and it feels more dynamically tuned. This engine is incredible now. Close to 410 pound-feet of torque, and that is a huge increase from what you had for the B9.5 at 369. This model is torquey, it's fun, it's aggressive, it has a heart, it has a soul. And when you let off throttle, there's some crackles to the exhaust, which BMW got rid of. So Audi has kind of learned from their mistakes with the B9.5, and they have improved in more ways than one. Now, if you remember what I had to say about the Q5, I really didn't like the PPC platform because it felt very EV-like. It had that lower center of gravity, but without a sports tune suspension, there was something lacking. Well, we have the sports tune suspension, and now everything makes sense. Seat positioning here is a bit more on point with the SQ5. You feel like you're a bit more part of the chassis than the Q5. And also on top of this, you do sit a bit lower to the ground. And with all this in mind, I think you are going to have a vehicle that is going to reach the right buyer now. That if there was any concerns that B9.5 owners had about the B10, you can put all of it to rest. Even in these corners, it hugs the corners. This is great. It does feel Porsche Macan-like. And I don't know if that was done on purpose for the Volkswagen Audi brand, where the Macan's future is up in the air for the gas-powered model. But to save like $10,000, $20,000 by going with an SQ5 over a Porsche Macan, and a well-equipped Porsche Macan at that, I think the SQ5 makes a lot more sense. Now, compared to the Q5 for the B10 generation, a lot of your weight is focused for the center of the platform, where I feel like it's more evenly distributed here for the SQ5. That I don't feel like that there's all this weight beneath me, beneath my seat. It's now felt both up front and the rear, giving you that lower center of gravity. And that when you are in the corners, you're going to have that confidence. You're going to have the capability to have a lot of fun. I really, truly think Audi has done it right. Yes, I was one of those people that was concerned about the B10. Yes, I was one of those people that thought, oh, Audi's moving in the wrong direction. But honestly, they did it right. They did everything right here. Further complementing the performance out of the SQ5 for the B10 generation is going to be its styling. I will be honest though, this has been an acquired taste, because as you make your way over to the side profile, and it's more pronounced here with this wheel package, it does look like an e-tron product. And we've seen this a lot from Audi, where EV styling is making its way into the gas-powered vehicles, and for me it just hasn't worked. But as time has progressed, the more I see the Q5 and SQ5 on the roadways, the more I'm really beginning to like this crossover. Also, right now heading into 2026, what is the SQ5's main competitors? The GLC 43 and the BMW X3 M50. Both of those crossovers have flaws of their own. With the Mercedes-Benz GLC 43, no V6. With the BMW X3, and more specific for this portion of the video, the styling is very controversial, and in some ways it might even be ugly for some buyers out there. The squared off body lines, the large kidney grills just isn't aging very well. Whereas with the SQ5's reserved demeanor, it's kind of making this generation age really well and ease into this class heading into 2026. Taking a closer look at the aesthetics, you are going to have LED headlights here in a thinner design, so it's not as pronounced as the B9.5. That was one of my biggest concerns when I first checked out this crossover earlier in the year. With this being the SQ5, you have some gloss black trim here, aggressive side air intakes for better airflow and helping out with the aerodynamics and maybe even the efficiency of this crossover. Then as we take a look at the grille, you have the anthracite badging here. That's new for the B10, A5, and Q5. But then the grille itself, so you're going to have the S badge. I wish we had the SQ5 badge instead. Some gloss black trim. But then take a look at how massive these holes are. I mean, you can get right into the engine right there. I mean, I'm a bit more concerned that, like, I'm going to puncture a radiator or something. This isn't exclusive to Audi, by the way. A lot of manufacturers are getting bold with their grille designs. I'm a bit surprised that they're doing this right now, but it is what it is. Then you have more air intakes helping to cool off that V6 for the low portion of the front bumper. Now, as you make your way over to the side profile, our model is sitting on 21-inch alloy wheels, and you're going to notice those red brake calipers. This is going to give you a lot more confidence when you are braking on a winding back road. This is also going to match up very well with the handling and overall performance for this vehicle. I will be honest though, these 21-inch wheels are not my favorite. I prefer more of a gloss black look, but that's just my take. Now, you are going to have gloss black side mirror caps to go along with turn signal indicators, and obviously blind spot detection for added safety. Also, some gloss black trim outlining the windows, which is really nice. Then as you make your way around to the back here we have that LED light bar that runs the length of the rear fascia. I have to be honest, this is actually looking really nice, and this is where I'm starting to notice the SQ5 kind of looking like a Porsche Macan. So it has the same thin LED taillights here, really nice stuff. You have the SQ5 badge as well. And then as you take a look at the lower portion of the rear bumper, here we have the quad exhaust tips, letting you know this crossover does mean business. Also, you can tow with this vehicle as well. So if you're going on a road trip with the family, you're going to have that versatility and capability. And then you will have some gloss black trim as well. I will say though that this vehicle isn't underwhelming per se, but the fact that Audi kept things simple, they actually were very conservative with the styling, it does look pretty nice. It does look almost in a way Audi's version of a Porsche Macan, and I do like that. I think that's one of the strong points here for the B10 generation. Then as you hop inside the Audi SQ5, this is where there's some good and a lot of bad. And this is where the cons come into play for this crossover for 2025. You take a look at the exterior styling, you take a look at the performance, the pricing, it's all really good. It's all very competitive. in this market with the BMW X3 M50 and the Mercedes-Benz GLC43. But the interior is this crossover's Achilles heel. You see that with the technology. You see that with the dashboard layout. But let's begin with what's good, and that's going to be the seats. The power adjustable heated leather trimmed seats for both the driver and passenger, also massaging seat functionality as well, which you don't get out of the Q5. So there's at least some comfort aspects here. There's some incentives to spending 70 grand for a crossover like this. But when you are looking at buying a performance tuned crossover, you want the seats to match that. And I think Audi has achieved all of that and then some, at least for up front. But then as you transition away from the seats, we slowly start going downhill. So with the steering wheel, aggressive 10 and 2, firm 9-3 grips, does feel really nice in the hands, flat bottomed and flat topped. But then you see the haptic feedback buttons on the steering wheel, the haptic feedback buttons on the door panel for the driver's side, this full digital gauge cluster and infotainment system. Now, the technology might actually be an acquired taste. I don't really know. Some people might actually prefer this. But comparing the B10 to the B9.5, this is where the downgrade begins, because this digital gauge cluster isn't as nice as Audi's virtual cockpit from the B9.5, and then the infotainment system isn't as user-friendly or as intuitive as what we had with Audi's MMI user interface. The Google integration, the Android-based software has hurt this vehicle in many ways. Now, the technology is great. I mean, like the resolution, the quality, fantastic. It's clear, it's easy to read, the responsiveness is good. But the fact you don't have physical buttons, physical dials, there's nothing here really to work with for your climate control settings. Then you also need to go to embedded menus. This is all just completely unnecessary for what Audi was offering just a couple of years ago. And that's one of my biggest complaints here out of this vehicle, out of the new Audi products, is that the technology took a major leap backwards. And at a time when vehicles are becoming more tech-focused, you don't want to be saying that. You don't want to be hearing journalists complain about this, and yet that's where we are. Now, for me, I can kind of live with this infotainment system just because it is what it is. It's the same layout as what we're going to find out of the BMW X3 M50, and I think it's probably easier to use compared to the Mercedes-Benz GLC43. But objectively speaking, though, the technology itself is probably going to be better than what you're going to find from rivals. So there's that comes into play here. However, for me, comparing this to the B9.5, we have taken a major step back. But then you take a look at the rest of the dashboard here, and you have this fake carbon fiber weave, and it's like, how do we go from the B9.5 to this? How do we go to fake carbon fiber? How do we go from a lack of ultra suede or Alcantara to what we have now on the door panels and also on part of the dashboard? And that's where it hurts. Audi could do a lot better, especially at this price point. And it's just the touch points that, you know, really are like, man, I'm spending $70,000 and I'm getting this. I'm getting hard touch materials on the dashboard. I don't even get a leather trim dashboard. Like, what is this, right? And that to me is kind of like the whiplash effect with the SQ5, because there's so much good, and then you hop inside and then bam, you get hit with this. And this to me right here is what's going to hurt this crossover in future model years until we see a mid-cycle refresh. For the rest of the interior, you're not going to have a traditional gear shift knob. It's all the same now in Audi products, so they've definitely changed up the center portion of this vehicle. Also, you have your drive mode selector for dynamic, comfort, balanced, and off-road. You'll never be going off-road here with this vehicle. Your auto start stop, your traction control on and off. You at least have a physical dial for the volume and tuning. So there's that. But really though, the interior is what's going to be the major cons here. The technology probably more importantly, because the technology just isn't where it was last year. And then the fit and finish, we've also taken a step back. But to be fair, Audi isn't the only one doing this. BMW and Mercedes-Benz have been doing this as well over the past few years. So Audi's kind of in the same boat here, in my opinion. But when you take a look at what Audi has stood for over the last 10, 20 years, this is where we have seen a major change that hopefully Audi can get back to where they were a couple of years ago. This right now is just an awkward phase for the brand. And that right there is the pros and cons that makes up the 2025 Audi SQ5 for the B10 generation. The reason why we're even here having this conversation and why the SQ5 is worthy of winning Car of the Year for Boston Autoblog. But guys, let me know what you think about the SQ5. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you still prefer the B9.5? Let me know in the comment section below. Also, more nominees will be named later this week. So guys, once again, thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I will see you guys next time.